coming up on the Life is the Future podcast.
When I was growing up and stuff, people would be like, "Oh, you're so well spoken. You don't sound like a black guy, or
yeah,
like, you don't sound
that
like
too, yeah.
like you don't sound like what you should be." You know, like that's kind of like it goes back to like being mindful. It's like, what does talking black mean? You know what I mean?
I do remember asking my parents when I was like little, what does talking black mean? And it's crazy. No, because I mean it was a real question, because I was like, I've gotten like, you're really like advanced from talking in your like age, and then it's basically like stereotyping for me because I'm black. I can't talk at the vocabulary that I had. So then I am asking my parents, like, what does talking like black mean? Like, because I don't know, because people are coming at me for talking how I talk.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think.
Hey, this is Scott Todnam, and you're listening to the Life is the Future podcast, a podcast for health education, middle school, and life in general. It's episode 10 of season 6 of our podcast. Here's this week's 8th graders to talk about social health and all things stereotypes. Check it out.
Hey guys, welcome back to season 6, episode 10 of the Life is the Future podcast. Today we're here with
Roshann, Amare,
John,
Addison,
Ayla, and Alexis.
and today we're going to be discussing another pretty big topic about racism and stereotypes in our school, from middle school, and our expectations for high school. So to start it off, like honestly, it's kind of like a broad topic, but has anybody here just like kind of felt like they've experienced racism in school?
Not really. Yeah.
not really.
Yeah.
Okay,
When have you experienced?
Don't use names, though. We'll go.
I mean, it was a couple times. Like, I just hear everybody just coming to me, like, telling me people are saying, like, racial slurs. Like, why are you coming to tell me?
Yeah, 'cause it's like what's the point of it? You know what I mean?
I think they use it as like jokes a lot, but I wouldn't really. I don't know if your categories as that like racism, but I mean.
I feel like it depends on the person
yeah.
and like who's saying it too. Because like, if your friends are messing around, but then someone that you don't know says it to you, it's like, well, you're not really close with me like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this topic is so big because like for me, like when I think about it, it kind of draws the line between when it becomes like a joke to when it becomes serious, you know.
Serious, yeah.
And especially with kids in like at least our school and stuff, it's like it's of like racist jokes. It's like it's a common thing. It's a very common thing. Like as much as like they try like they do like all like there's like the presentations like don't be racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's a common thing that everyone
like,
jokes around with.
Exactly, and it's like for me, it's like where do you guys like draw the line? Like do you think when it's like slurs or when it's like
Yeah, I feel like it's when it's more directed at someone.
Yeah, I think same. I draw when it's more directed like towards me or towards someone. That's when it's like okay.
It's like just like stop.
Yeah.
Because like I'm gonna be honest, like especially in like my classes, I hear those jokes all the time, nonstop. Yeah. It'll be like I know some people they do like the whipping noise. You know what I mean? And
yes.
That's
like the Indian music. And
yes.
Well, it's like I know it's like I've heard like it's like Indian music. You know, it's like the same thing that they play every time for that. Or it's like I know there's so many jokes about like black people and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it's so common and just like it's same. I think you say the same thing for you. It's like do people ever categorize things like I know it's a stereotype, but like from what I hear in my classes, they're always like like Indians, they're nerds,
so smart,
they're smart, or like I've even heard like smelly. Have you heard that? Yeah. It's like for me, it's just like to think of like to categorize a whole group as it's just so disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like I know obviously you guys are white, so it's like it might seem different, but like what do you guys ever feel like anything or like the opposite kind of like?
I mean, sometimes, I guess it just depends, like, what they were saying. Like, it just depends on if it's directed towards you.
Because, like, I know it's, like, sometimes it doesn't feel like the jokes can, like, go towards you guys.
I
you
feel
know
like
what I mean?
there isn't, like, well...
Many,
I'm speaking for me, mostly, but I feel like there isn't, like, a lot of stuff that's directed to, like, white people so much.
Caucasian whites.
Okay. But, like, sometimes it'll be, like, like, sometimes I hear, like, white girls don't do that or something like that.
Yeah, like, I kind of think, like, there's no really, like, there's really no, like when you think of, like slurs against, like, a race or something, you don't really think of, like, you know, like, white people in general.
Yeah.
But it's, like, I really, like, kind of, like, the stereotypes of, like, I really like white girls, like, like the white girl music, like, that's different.
Yeah.
But then it's, like, it goes to the point where it's, like, like, dumb blonde, or, like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you ever get that? Why are we all looking at it?
Yeah, but I definitely think I've gotten, like, some, which at this point, I don't even take it, like, to heart or anything. Like, with like the whitewash and like you're not black and stuff like. And I think towards that point, it's like, what is the meaning of being black? Like because they don't act one way, then they're not black anymore. That it makes no sense. So at this point, I'm just like, okay. And I just don't even pay attention to it.
Like, I can go so into that topic. I feel like it's just like
I could too.
With me, like I'm black and I'm also Asian though. But it's like other like people. It's like they're like, oh, you're not black. But it's like
what's
what?
The
and then it's like
meaning
what's the meaning? It's like to them, it's like I don't like constantly like use the N word or like I'm not like. It's like I'm not like to them. It's like I'm like when I ask them why, they're like, oh, it's like you don't like act like all like you know what I mean. Like,
or you don't eat
a
certain food,
you don't eat a certain food,
or like you're just like I
don't listen to like a certain type of music, or it's like I'm not constantly saying or like using like this way, and I'm like it kind of like reflects off what they're saying. It's like their idea of like black people. It's like it's like
typical.
Typical. They're like you like you're gonna speak like you know what I mean. You're gonna speak like. You know what I mean? Like broken English kind of. It's like you're gonna be like talking like a thug or something. Like that sounds like bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like when someone tells you that, it's kind of like their image of them is like, oh, it's like, oh, you're not gonna be smart. Oh,
and
you're
and they like characterize that whole group as they listen to this music, they eat that food, they do that, and then it's like, okay, if you don't do any of that, you're not black anymore.
Exactly.
It's like there's no definition of what being black is, just how there's no definition of what being like white is or anything else with that.
Exactly. It's like when you start to categorize like one group as one certain thing because of stereotypes, and like although like obviously like you know like even Mr. Thomas says like some stereotypes they're gonna be true, like you know like that's why the stereotype is there. But it's like when it comes to the point where it's like you start like attacking someone for it or like going against them, that's when I think it's like the line's kind of drawn, you know what I mean? Because like with me like being like the both races, it's like when someone's like, oh, you're not black, but then do I look Asian at all? No. So it's like it's kind of like it's like what do I categorize myself as, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like, but I know for like for Roshann, for you, for like I don't know, like being Indian, like kind of most of like our area is more like it's more like an Indian denominated, but like what do you feel? Anything?
I feel like people make jokes about like the red dot on your forehead and stuff.
Yeah.
But like that's mostly like religious stuff, so it's kind of offensive. But like if anything's not like targeted towards me, I don't really take it to heart. But like the music and stuff, like I said before, it's not funny, but it's not like offensive at the same time.
Mm-hmm. But like I know like I've witnessed kind of like if we're with our friends or something and it's like Roshann's with us and it's like someone makes like a racist joke about like Indian people or something, it's like I always feel like it makes you kind of like put in like an awkward like situation, you know what I mean? You're just like, kind of like silent like but it's like what if like that does attack you?
It's like a fake laugh.
Because I was thinking like what Amare said with like people might say things and then they come to me. It's like, what do you want me to do about that? Like, I can't do anything. Like, they're like, oh yeah, so and so just said the N-word. It's like, okay,
am
like
I the N-word police
like,
or something?
Exactly. Like, am I supposed to go like jump them or something?
Like, just kill them for
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like I think a lot of people take it, and yes, like only black people are supposed to say the word, but I think a lot of people take it to heart more than what it's supposed to. It's like, okay, yes, it is a word, but at the same time, no, you shouldn't be saying that. But don't come to me if someone else said it.
And honestly, it's like a situation like really, black people aren't really supposed to say the word.
Exactly, because it was a slur once upon a time.
It was a slur, but like it was when it started and originated, it was like the hard R, and then they made it just the N-word.
As like friends, like cool types.
It's like they kind of like retook over the meaning, you know what I mean? And it's like now when other people use it, and like, but like it's like because I know so many kids in the school use it, like in my class, I can name like not even like just say that it's like the guys, you know, mostly just like they'll spam it and stuff, and there's like, and they come to me, they're like, oh, blah blah blah, said the N-word, like John, you gonna do something about it? Like
exactly, it's like no, I'm not gonna do something.
It's like they want me just like they're like, oh, John, go beat him up, like what? Like I'm in school and it's like too, it's like. They act like we control it, you know.
We control,
kind of police of it.
Like if somebody says that, and we're like, I'm gonna beat you.
Yeah, it's like
exactly. It's like they're always like, oh yeah, are you gonna take that? Like it wasn't directed towards me, and even if it was, like I'm not like about to go beat someone up because of that or. I don't know.
You didn't hear them say it, so
exactly.
They didn't
You didn't
say it. Just beat them up for no reason.
Yeah.
I hear from like other schools, like they'll be like, oh, I said the N-word and. Because I got the pass, or I'm like, okay, like, why should you be so proud of that? I was like,
it's like I know, it's like the more attention that like we bring to the words, like the more people are gonna want to use it, and the more people want to say it, like because it's like if there's something that you like restrict other people from doing, they're gonna want to use it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know this is probably like a hard part for you guys because you couldn't even like, you know what I mean? But it's like, I know like at least for you guys, like, is there anything else like you guys think like like knowing like other black people around, like do you hear the jokes too as much? Like
Yeah.
I mean, they're all around school. Like, you hear them in classrooms. Like, I hear them all the time.
I also think another stereotype, when people start to stereotype like their meaning of like rich and you have money, which I've also heard a lot, and still I don't like take it like to heart and stuff like that, but like it does get annoying. It's like, you're assuming because I have that or because that I'm rich, that does not mean that I have money because I have those things. And I also think they categorize like a group. Like, I've heard people say like Crone or Gregory, they're like super rich, but you don't know that.
Yeah.
You're just
People that live in
assuming.
Ashwood.
Exactly, you're just assuming that because they live in those houses.
Yeah.
And they
That-
have those things.
Yeah.
And I
Or
also
like
think,
you have Lululemon, so then you're automatically rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what you said about like the Crone and like the Gregory, like I think the biggest thing that stands out for them is like Crone and Gregory, they're predominantly white, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then we assume that they're the richest schools, you know what I mean?
Because of it.
Then it goes back to like the things where like, what do they mean, like, you know, the ones that more predominantly like that are more like, you know, darker complexions, obviously. It's
Yeah.
like people start to like think of them as lower and think of them more as like the hood schools, you know what I mean? But it's just stereotypes. It goes all back down to it. And it's like kind of like what you said, like the rich, like the people assume like the rich people stuff, and it's like, I don't know, it's like kind of goes back to it. It's like, it's like you're black and like you have like money and stuff, it's like that, or it's like the opposite. It would be like, or it's like I don't know. Like, do you ever feel anything like that?
I don't really feel anything like that most of the time.
What about you guys? Sorry.
You're good.
Like, does anybody like assume just because you're white that you're just like?
Oh, yeah. Like, a lot of people assume, like, since I'm white, I have, like, all this money and I live in such a good home. But, like, they don't know what actually, like, how much I have or, like, what my parents' income is. And, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the same as me, just because I'm like white.
Yeah.
I also think it's like they judge you from what you look like on the outside, but really it's like you don't know me. You don't know where I came from. You don't know what my life has been before coming to Naperville. Because I also think they categorize Naperville as like having money, and some people might and some people might not. But you just don't know just because of the neighborhood. And yes, it is a good neighborhood, but you don't know what everyone's like money level is like.
Yeah, like we live in like one of the, like I looked it up, it was like I think it's like top 3 in like the whole Midwest, and it's like I think we're all grateful for that too. It's like we don't take it for granted, you know what I mean? Because I feel like there comes up a line between like spoiled, but then like being kind of like selfish and greedy about it, you know what I mean? Because like my parents, like what's it called? At least for me, I feel like a pretty spoiled kid, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm really grateful for like the things and the opportunities my parents have given me and stuff, especially knowing that like they've worked hard to be where they are and stuff. So it's like I think it kind of goes back to that. It's like nobody knows the full story about someone, but to like just categorize them in like one thing, that's when it starts getting bad, and they can just like weaponize other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like over even like COVID, my friends they own their like own restaurant, and they kind of like hit a curb because their restaurant wasn't doing well. So then they might have been, well, I don't know their situation exactly, but I'm just saying like in general, like the people that owned restaurants, they might have been doing really well before COVID, but then after the curb hit of COVID, they might have not been doing so well, but they still probably lived in the same area. They just didn't have their restaurant anymore. So people probably still like stereotype them as being rich because how they were before COVID.
Yeah, I know COVID did that to a lot of like the other like the family-owned businesses and like all like the smaller ones, because like, you know what I mean. So like a lot of like I know a lot of people who had like their lives completely turned around because of that, and then people like they'll judge them on the outside for or like the past, but they don't know anything what it's really like. You know what I mean?
What it's in the moment like.
Exactly.
Because I feel like towards this point, I just brushed it off, don't take it to heart. But I think I used to be like, it's like you don't know anything about where I used to live, where I came from, how hard my parents worked to get my family like here, but you're just stereotyping me off of what I wear. So it's like at this point, whatever you think, what you think, I know what I know. So
Yeah, and I feel like it's not always just that. Like it's kind of I feel like they also like they judge like the way we act. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we act based on who we're around and what we grew up with and our experiences and stuff. And like for me, like I'm told, oh, like you're not black. You know what I mean? Because like I don't
Because the
act
way
black.
I act and
but
the way I
like
talk.
back in like my elementary school, there was one other black kid in my grade, and he moved away. So it's like kind of like growing up, I wasn't around any other like, you know, people like my race and stuff. And it's like. And, like, the fact that, like, I'm not even really including, like, Asians as me is because, like, I don't look like it. And so people automatically assume I'm not. So it's, like, I just feel like growing up and I feel like school and just, like, everything else, I feel like that's definitely kind of, like, for me at least, like, disrupted the way I view myself and stuff and, like, what I do and how I act, because it's, like, sometimes I kind of, like, I wonder about my own identity, you know what I mean?
yeah. And I think I used to do the same thing that you do. I used to know how many black kids were like in my classes. I could count it with one hand. Like there was probably, I think the most I ever had in my class was in 5th grade, which was like I think 6 black kids. And for me to be like, wow, there's 6 black kids in my class is crazy, because I mean I've just grown up around a lot of like white people. So the way I talk, the way I move around is not per se what they think black is. But then as well as when people are like, oh, you're not black, but then what are you if you've been around the same people I've been around?
Exactly. It's like, I know it's like, for us, I feel like us 3 is kind of the opposite. I know, like, for you 3, though, it's like these areas, it's more predominantly, like Indian and the white, you know what I mean? So it's like, how are your experiences with that? Because it's like, I know, like, most people are similar, and you kind of, like, not, like, you know, similar, like looks-wise. I mean, like, does that give you, like, a sense of, like comfortability at all? Or, like...
I mean, yeah, it makes me more comfortable knowing, like, there's more of, like, it's more my race, like Indians in our community and stuff. But like most of the time, I want more like outputs to like more races to know about them, so more people don't like stereotype them.
Yeah, so you like the diversity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I feel like we live in a very diverse area.
Yeah, I agree too. And it's like I feel like it's really good too, especially now. Like at least back at like where I went like to school, like Peterson and stuff. I don't know if I should have said that, but whatever. But yeah, it's just a pocket.
Yeah.
But like I know it's like it wasn't that diverse. It was like white and Indian. That was it really. Yeah. And then it was like now like Scullin at least. It's like there's so many like more broad and so many different types. And it's like there's like kids that are like that vape. There's kids that like do even worse stuff. You know what I mean? Like we're experiencing so many new like things, and especially going into high school next year. Like, do you guys think these like stereotypes and stuff are gonna get worse, or do you think people are gonna kind of like?
They're definitely gonna get worse.
Because there's gonna be worse.
Yeah, because there's gonna be like way more people.
Yeah.
Like you're open to more, and you just are gonna see more.
Yeah.
I think it could go like one or two ways with like what we're saying with how we grew up. You could be more, because you've always grown up around like not your race. Do you ever feel uncomfortable when you're surrounded
by what?
By black people, or when you're surrounded by Asians? Do you ever feel like a sort of like you're not belonging here because you've always been around white people and stuff like that?
Yeah, I feel like depending on like who I'm with and stuff, sometimes, to be honest, for me, sometimes I feel like judged. Like if I'm around like tons of like black people and stuff, sometimes I think, oh, am I gonna be acting too white around these people or something, or like too like, you know what I mean? Like, am I not gonna be acting like black enough? And the fact that like I'm even thinking that myself, it shows like kind of like what I've grown up with. And it's like if I'm around like my Asian family, you know what I mean? Is it like obviously this, because like I know they all love me and stuff, so it's different. But it's like when I'm around like other people like all like that like I'm not related to and stuff, sometimes I think, oh, are they threatened of me, or are they scared of me? Do they think I'm gonna act a certain way just because of what I look like? You know what I mean? And I feel like that's just like kind of just sucks to think about. Like for some reason I feel like I have to like prove myself to them, and it's like 100%. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't know, and that just kind of like reflects like just kind of how we've all grown up with.
Yeah, when I'm around a group of black people I don't know, sometimes I do feel like what you're saying, like, are they going to judge me for me saying that or talking like that type of way? But I think it's taken a lot of self-confidence in myself to be like, I am who I am, so if they like me, they like me. If they don't like me, they don't like me, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do, too. I've been trying to just, like, know in myself that's, like, it's like no one can change who I am. Exactly. No one can comment on who I am if they're not me. You know what I mean? It's like it's my life, and I'm going to live it how I want it to be. You know what I mean? And, yeah, I mean, like, especially, like, I would say, like, in, like, classes in school, I feel like that has, like, to do with it, because, like kind of, like what race you are, I feel like sometimes that's how people, like, perceive how smart you're going to be, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I know, like, for Indian people, they're always going to assume that, you're super smart, you're going to be, like, it's, like going to, like, tech or something, you know what I mean? Because those are, like, all the stereotypes I hear from, like, my fellow
Even
Indian,
they say
like,
Asians are
classmates.
super smart.
I feel like it's also mostly because in this area, their like parents had them like do math facts ever since they were little. Just a lot of kids in this area. So now we just think of all the Indian kids everywhere are like all super smart, just because most of the Indian kids in this area have just been doing the flashcards or whatever
classes. Yeah, like I know a lot of like my classmates. Most of my classmates are like Indian and stuff, and like when I hear about their experiences, like at least with like their parents and stuff, it kind of just depends. Like some of them I know is like because like it's also different from where they come from. Like the immigrant families, they have a completely different like thing. And same
lifestyle.
Thing, it was same thing for like my grandma, like on my Asian side and stuff. It's like it's like so much more strict because it's like, you know, they want a different life. It's like, you know, they want like that life for them. That's why they do like the classes and stuff and like all the extra stuff. And then people like, they judge them for it. They're like, oh, you're a nerd or you're Indian or Asian. Like, what's Indian Asian? But like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be smart. Of course, you're gonna be in PA and all the advanced classes. And you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, you're not gonna be athletic enough. Or it's like, oh, if you're black, you're not gonna be smart, but you're gonna be athletic. So it's
well,
like.
that also comes from like, you don't know who I am. Versus like they seem like they're really smart, but then in reality it's like I'm doing this because my parents came here to give me a better life, so I want to represent like my family and stuff like that. So I think it comes from where your story comes from and what are you doing it for.
Like, anybody here like immigrant families or anything at all?
Because even they have different like values and it is more strict. Because my neighbors who are in here, we were doing prank calling and and he came over to our house and told my mom, and my mom didn't care, but like to them it was like, we're immigrants here, so could they call the police on us, could they take us, things like that. And we don't know their full story of how they got here or if they have certain things that we have but they don't
I
have.
didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I've never heard that outlook of it. It's like we have to be so mindful of like other people because nobody knows the full story about someone's life. And like it's kind of just in our human nature to just like judge, you know what I mean, and just like always kind of like perceive our image of them, be prejudiced and stuff about that in our heads. But it's like I don't know, do you think we should change that, or do you think that like that's something we can't change? It's just
I think I don't think it's something we can change because you will never understand someone's full story. But I think it's something we can become mindful of. So we're not as judgeful because like before that instant, I never thought about how prank calling could really stress someone out because that's just an American thing that we have just Americanized, and it's like it's not that bad. We're not gonna get the cops called on us if we do prank calling, but to them it's like, could this like mess up our future and what we have for our kids? But I've never thought about it that way.
What do you think? Do you think you can change it?
I don't think people are not gonna like change what they think about like stereotypes, but I say we could like think about more people's stories and try to be like not as stereotypical.
But I think because even like my best friend, like if I tell her like everything, most things that happen in my life, she'll like be mindful of my situation, but she won't know how that feels because
She can't relate.
yeah, she can't relate. So like you can tell someone something and they can like understand that happened to you, but they don't know how it felt or what position it put you in to understand how it actually happened.
Yeah, I know we should probably wrap this up soon, but like I know like when I was growing up and stuff, people would be like, "Oh, you're so well spoken. You don't sound like a black guy," or
Yeah,
like,
I've
you don't
gotten
sound
that
like
too, yeah.
like you don't sound like what you should be. You know, like that's kind of like it goes back to like being mindful. It's like what does that even mean? You know, what does talking black mean? You know what I mean? It's like, but yeah, I think this was a really good topic for the day.
Because before we end, I do remember asking my parents when I was like little, what does talking black mean? And it's crazy. No, because it was a real question because I was like, I've gotten like, you're really like advanced from talking in your like age and then it's basically like stereotype for me because I'm black, I can't talk at the vocabulary that I had. So then I am asking my parents like, what does talking like black mean? Like, because I don't know because people are coming at me for talking how I talk.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think it's like because when different people like speak, like people expect for that person to speak like
Different.
Yeah, like differently.
Yeah.
And, like sometimes people have accents and stuff like
Broken
I don't
English
know,
and stuff like
broken
that.
English, like, and they just like characterize that like that's how you're going to talk.
Yeah, and then when you don't talk that way, they're like, you're not
Like, where's
that
your
race, or
accent?
where's
Yeah.
your accent at? And it's like, I don't have an accent. I've grown up here my whole life.
Yeah, and because you said your family was Dominican, right? So
Yeah.
it's like they speak Spanish too. It's like, is there anything like with that? Like, do they have accents and stuff like that?
They all have accents. It's like Spanish accent. But like
Is it your
people
mom?
like try to characterize me like, oh, you don't speak Spanish, so you're
Where's
not
your
Dominican.
accent at and stuff
like
that. It's
Where's your
like-
accent?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I wasn't born in
Exactly,
Dominican
it's like-
Republic, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
your mom's or your dad's side?
My dad's side.
It's cool. Yeah. So, like, do you have anything else to say to the viewers?
No.
Well, I guess if you're being stereotyped at your school, or like if you're ever going through something like that, I would say just know you're perfect the way you are. As corny as that might sound,
It's okay. It's okay.
It's true though. It's like live your life the way you want it to be, not like what everyone else says you are.
Don't change it. Don't change you for
don't change yourself for anybody.
Don't change yourself. Be yourself. Don't try and change how you talk. The way you, move.
Nobody knows your true story.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad for the way you act or if you act a certain way.
Don't let them get under your skin.
That was a bar.
that was a good one.
But yeah, well, we'll see you guys later, and thanks for watching.
Bye.
All right, thanks to the big group today, Ayla, Alexis, Roshann, John, Addison, and Amare for taking on social health and stereotypes. What an important and impressive conversation to have. That is not an easy topic, to take on social stereotypes in regards to race or gender or age, and I thought the 8th graders did a really nice job with that today. Also, I think you'll agree as a viewer, it's important for us to just listen. What is it like to grow up as a teenager in 2024 and beyond? What are teens doing? What does the language sound like? Are there microaggressions when it comes to these things? And what's the expectation going into high school as well? All in all, another solid episode. I think that the last few in particular with this group have been their best, and that's usually how it works each season and each school year. If you haven't been able to keep up recently, maybe backtrack some episodes and check out this playlist for season 6 of our podcast. And as we wrap up the 2023-2024 school year, exciting news, our season 2 hosts will join us back again to talk about everything with their life since they've been here in 8th grade as hosts of this very podcast. So stay tuned for that as we wrap up our season 6 of the Life is the Future podcast. As always, thanks for tuning in.